Hey, it's getting a little crowded, ain't it? Thank you to our fellow patrons, Strawbones, Woodward4765, Midnight Gemlord, Artgoon, and Sean. Now, we're having this breakdown slash discussion on how we kind of got a lot of characters right now. Please, do me a favor, leave your own thoughts on whether or not we have too many characters in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, you hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come on the channel. Also, we have a Patreon down below and support Frizzle as $1 a month. You get exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up, guys? Pencil here, and honestly, I think the cast is looking kind of bloated right now. I won't lie to you. And here's the thing: in other series, I think I would be. No, I'm not gonna lie. I was about to say in other series I'd be less concerned. No, I'm about the same amount of concerned as I would usually be in other series. And this is even with the route split that we're going down right now. Because when you think about it, with all the characters we have now, even if they're all pseudo main characters or even side characters, the plot is kind of in terms of how many characters we have. And I think this is especially problematic based on what happened last time. We had 7 main characters in a series written by Nakaba Suzuki. And let's hop into it. So right now, as of current, we have the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse, their 2 posses, and their horse. And that's a lot, because you gotta remember the previous series was titled 7 Deadly Sins, and let's just say the weight and character distribution was a little bit unfair. King and Diane. Whoa, sorry. Something got caught in my throat. Close it. Oh, jeez. I don't know what's darn. Just something so strange. Escanor, Bon, and Melios were kind of like the main characters, and then the rest of the 4 were kind of just pushed into background roles and had nothing to do with the plot. And while admittedly, Nakaba's done a better job of having every character tied into the plot this time, because they're either subordinates to people who care about the plot or either directly involved in it, aka the 4 Knights or their subordinates. But Nakaba wouldn't introduce this many characters for no reason. And make this many characters travel with our main group unless he was planning to get rid of some of them, right? Hypothetically, we have 4 characters that are essentially locked in. No characters with the title of 4 Knights. Any of the Apocalypse Knights are not going anywhere until the end of the series. I know for a fact they are not going anywhere. Another 2 that I'm gonna have to remove from the going somewhere roster, going to a farm upstate roster, is gonna have to be Isolde and Anne. I'm sorry, Nakaba has definitely been cooking. He's definitely been mixing me. He's definitely been breaking my ankles generally with how he's been writing 4 Knights so far. But something in my heart of hearts tells me that there's no way on this good green earth that Percival and Tristan's love interests are going to get put in a pack for character development. I don't know. Just something in my heart of hearts tells me, even though I can definitely see Anne being used for character development, mainly because she has no unique magic. Or at least a magic that's usable in battle. So I can definitely see Nakaba being what a shame. But she's the love interest of the main character, so I highly doubt she's going anywhere. So that leaves 6 characters that are pretty much untouchable, at least in my mind. That leaves us with 5. 5 other characters. I lied. But I didn't. Because Sylvain's a character too. You will respect him. And I also don't see him going anywhere. He's Anne's horse. And I know that's weird to give Anne's horse priority over other speaking human characters, but for some reason I just don't see Sylvain going anywhere. He's kind of like the Hawk of this series now that Sen is gone. You could initially argue maybe Sylvain would have died for character development sometime earlier in the narrative, but now it's too late. It's too late. We need a mascot character, because I don't think we're going to get Hawk back anytime soon, unless Hawk has had kids or a little brother. Again, I don't think he's going to show back up anytime soon. And you got to have that marketable animal mascot. And now that Sin's gone, we're going to have him. Sylvain, he's not going anywhere. And now that leaves us with 4 characters. The Donners, the Goat, the Worthless, and the Hater. And all I see before my very eyes are 4 cases of character development. Like, legitimately, I feel like we have 2 spares in each group. Because, obviously, with Gawain and Percival going somewhere, they aren't gonna go. Anne's not gonna go anywhere. And Sylvain's not going anywhere. So who do we have? 2 left over. It's perfect. Donnie and Nasians. In Tristan's group, it's a much more tight-knit, concise group, but Tristan's not going anywhere, and neither is Isolde, because she goes everywhere Tristan goes. So all that leaves, at least in my eyes, in my line of sight, is Jade and Kion. And Lancelot's traveling alone. And Lancelot, he's not... If you think Lancelot's getting put in a pack off-screen and or early on in the narrative, I don't know what narrative you've been reading, but at least not anytime soon. Like, unless Nakaba has secretly put an immortality curse on Lancelot and he'll survive whatever, he's not going to get packed anytime soon. So we have a total of a solid, juicy, and meaty 11 characters, a good over half of which is not going anywhere. So now the real question is, who is Nakaba going to axe and in what order? Personally, I think, and this hurts me, down to my very core, this hurts me, but I don't think Jade and Kion are going to go. At least not this quickly. Like, hypothetically, I could see Jade going, but I don't think we're going to see it first. Like, if anything, we'll see that around the middle of the narrative. After Kion and Jade have sort of, like, gestated a bit more, then I think we'll finally see them, get up out of here. Mainly because we don't know that much about them yet. Like, we know Kion is the child of Gilthunder and Margaret. And that's about it. Also, he hates everybody. Hates everybody that's not Tristan. Everyone else is inferior unless your name is Tristan. So, obviously, that's about all we know about him. And who is Jade? What is Jade? Why is Jade? Where is Jade? Actually, don't answer any of those because it doesn't matter because he's worthless. But that's the thing, right? Like, right now, he is so nothing of a character that I can tell you more about Hawk. Like, his personality, his development, all that. Like, I can tell you more about him and Kath before I can tell you anything about Jade. Because Jade's that irrelevant. So I don't see Nakaba really, like, bang. Like, I don't see him doing that to either of them just yet, just because we haven't had enough time with them. And they were literally sent on another separate journey with Tristan. So we're probably going to get some development in there beforehand. So that leads us to the real 2 first victims I think we're going to have. And that's Donnie and Nasians. Notably, I don't want either of these characters to get, how would you say it, removed. I like them both. I like Nasians a bit more, but still, both are 2 characters that I really, really like. And we've had a lot of time with. And are, for lack of a better term, expendable. Like, here's the thing, right? Hauser, really, really cool character from the last series. Does nothing, isn't important. Literally, they didn't even mention the fact that they saw him. Like, I don't even think it's even mentioned when Donnie went to visit his grandparents that he actually saw Hauser and, like, had a whole little adventure with him. Hauser kind of irrelevant. It is entirely possible for his nephew to get put in the pack. Like, I'm just saying, especially since Donnie has, like, no utility that isn't offered by any of the other knights at this point. Like, legitimately, telekinesis is neat, it's cool, it's fancy. Percy can do it. Bro got a whole bunch of mini hymns right there on deck. Sure, they're probably going to rebel against them and fight back and have their own little mini arc, but right now, all he needs to do is make a really big hand, boom, bootleg telekinesis. Lance can probably just genuinely develop telekinesis if he doesn't have it already. Notably, we have barely seen him stressed and any real reason for him to use telekinesis. So he should have it. It's in his kit. Every single fairy we've seen has some variation of telekinesis. I think one of the strongest ones we've ever seen, even if they're just a hybrid, should have that if they can transform and read minds. Tristan, right now, he does not have it. But give him a couple chapters, let him get a little bit of that darkness under control, bada bing, bada boom, he has bootleg telekinesis. Like, Donnie, you got 2 people who can knock your stuff off, 1 person who can just outright do it potentially, and I think Gawain just does have just genuine telekinesis. Like, she should. At least, if her magical kit is anywhere near Merlin's magical kit, which it seems to be, if she can already fly and do all the stuff like that, she probably has telekinesis too. Donnie, kind of useless, my boy. I could definitely see you getting up out of here. And like, it would be beautiful. It would be beautiful. It would be a beautiful way to take you out. I'm trying to think though, like who would take him out? Like it would have to be a random. Like I feel like we can't have any characters that are established so far take Donnie out. But then again, it would be wild if Ironside took Donnie out. I think that would be kind of crazy. The comeuppance would go wild, or not the comeuppance, the reverse of fate. Because specifically, Donnie ran from Ironside, and then he came running back because he had faith in Percival. Imagine Donnie having faith in Percival once again. Percival fails to save him, and Donnie gets skewered by his own father. Well, not by his own father. Donnie's father is somewhere, but like by Percival's father. Bada bing, bada boom. Ironside puts him on a spear and is like, "Where's your hope now, you weak, filthy 4 Knights of the Apocalypse?" Filthy 4 Knights of the Apocalypse. But nah, like legitimately, Donnie, I could see him going first, but then let's talk about our other candidate to go first. It's gonna have to be Nasians. And like, here's the thing, I love Nasians. Bro's cool, bro's stylish, bro's swaggy most of the time. I know it's not as bad in black and white, and obviously it's just not horrible in general, even in color, but compared to the drip lord that he was, golly gee willikers, Nasians has taken some steps back. But even still, dude, infinite drip. Dude has a ton of mystery behind him too. He just showed up one day. Bro spawned in. Bro doesn't have a backstory written up. He doesn't have anything written up. We know nothing about Nasians. Nasians knows nothing about Nasians. So obviously there's massive potential for a story there. Like, he could have some important lineage. He could have some random lineage. Something along the lines where we could find out what Nasians really is, or where he came from, or stuff like that. And plus you have the whole like pseudo plot line about other things about Nasians. So, like, there's definitely a whole ton of character potential here. Same thing for Donnie. Like, character development, at least properly for Donnie, is still unexplored. Both of these characters still have a super duper long way to go. But once again, we have 11 main characters. I'll be generous. I'll be generous and remove Sylvan if y'all really want me to, even though he's the strongest character in the verse. I'll remove him, and we have 10. Once again, this is the same mangaka who could barely write 7 main characters. I still don't count Merlin as written. Just because she was cooking the entire first series does not mean she was written. That is a walking, breathing, speaking, spellcasting plot device. That's all Merlin is, at least in my mind. So I don't count her. She's a cheater. She's a fibber, and she's a liar. All the above and more. But she ain't well written. And same thing looking at King and Diane. Like, don't get me wrong, I love King. King's fantastic. He's amazing. Diane, though, yeah, like, do I really need to explain? So essentially, we have more characters than we did in our previous series, running around with our main cast, some of which are not even titular characters. And you really expect me for them to all be alive? Like, at the same time period? In this same world? Like, I just don't buy it. It's just beyond my comprehension for Nakaba to write all these characters in and not sacrifice a couple. And the thing is, if you sacrifice those 4, we're down to the roster that we had in the original series. We're down to 7 again. Once again, including Sylvan. I know I keep including Sylvan. But still, remember, the 4 Knights plus Isolde, Anne, and Sylvan is 7. And we've seen Nakaba can somewhat write 7. We've seen he can somewhat write 7. And to be fair, all of our characters are in dire need of some character development. Like Tristan, someone's got to get packed for him. I know it. I can smell it. Someone's going to have to go. Lance had his character development off screen. And he has Jericho right now. So obviously, he doesn't necessarily need that much character development. But Percival? We need Percival on that menace mentality. On that Eminem, if you will. Like, legitimately. So I can definitely see it. I can definitely see just with how many characters that Nakaba's put in front of us. And stack this with the fact that not just Donnie's magic is a little bit repetitive with the amount of characters who can access a version of his magic, but like all of these expendable characters' magic is pretty much easily replicable or just not needed. Donnie, I already went over this telekinesis, but let's talk about Nasians. What is Nasians' main point? Healing you and buffing you. All of our characters have access to some form of internal buffing. With Lance, it's just his suppression. Like, legitimately, he just suppresses himself for most of the time by using his left hand. Then he goes to his right, bada bing, bada boom. He has a massive buff. Then on top of that, he can power up, which gives him another massive buff. So he has 2 stacked buffs right on top of each other. Tristan, 15 different forms. Like, legitimately, bro has not even begun to explore the amount of forms and combinations he has with demon magic and goddess magic. Bro literally has everything under the sun. Gawain, need I remind you, is literally the reincarnation of Escobar. If not the reincarnation. She has the magical ability that was what? Just a power up. She gets buff she gets buffer throughout the day. Not only just buff like stats wise, but also literally buff. Like, she gets gains throughout the day, naturally. And Percival, all you need to do is stab him, and he's gonna get buffed. None of these characters are needed. Or at least Nasians is not needed. And for the other half, healing, Percival can heal. Tristan can heal. Lancelot, he can't heal, but Nasians isn't going with Lancelot right now. And neither is Nasians going with Tristan, who can also heal. Admittedly does physical wounds, and Nasians would be very good. Don't get me wrong, Nasians is like the most specialized. And I think, once again, he has the most potential. But I also think that's the that's what hurts with Nasians the most, right? Because it's a 50-50. Either Nakaba didn't tell us anything about Nasians because he wants to keep him mysterious, and then we learn more about him later on down the line, and/or he kept Nasians mysterious because he doesn't have anything planned for him other than executing him. Like, either one is 100% viable, because once again, Nakaba is a guy who's written amazing things, but he's also the same person who has dropped like 15 different plot lines and done characters dirty. Like, the entire human race was done dirty in original 7 Deadly Sins. So I would not be shocked, even with characters who have potential, for Nakaba to just load the Spagooter and unload the Spagooter on them, and just bada bing, bada boom, they're out the narrative. So Nasians does have potential. Don't get me wrong. Lots of potential. But he also can just be executed. Pretty simply. Jade? Is Jade's magic really only the Dark Ball? Is that it? Like, if that's his only magic, 1, how did he become a holy knight? Like, sweet mother of mercy, how do you even pull that off? And 2, everyone can do that. Except for the ones who can't, don't need to do that. Percy, he can drown you in mini Percys. You are not seeing through those bad boys. I'm sorry, you're just not. Tristan? Either he's going to literally blind you by hitting you in the face with a massive beam of light, and/or he's going to literally shroud your head in a tangible darkness that could probably decapitate you. He doesn't need to just put a little dark ball around your head. Lancelot, you won't have a head if you're fighting Lancelot. You may not have a body if you're really unlucky. And Gawain, once again, she can literally just blind you. Imagine getting hit in the face with the sun. What does Jade really bring to the table? And Kion's in a very interesting spot. I'd say Kion can be useful, like obviously taking away your enemy's ability to breathe, trapping them in earth, all that stuff is good and all, but like, considering he can be like entirely stopped by someone hitting him in the throat and is preventing him from using any of his spells, and the fact that these spells take time to activate when every other knight can kind of just assault you. Like, they can either assault you, jump you, or both. Like, Percival, it's always a jump fest, no matter what. He can be alone or with 20 other people, and no matter what, it's gonna be a jump fest. Tristan, he can kind of make it a jump fest. Like, what are you gonna do if he throws like a million falling stars on you and you don't have him debuffed? Like, he's just gonna smack you up. Lancelot, he's hitting you in the mouth. Gawain also hitting you in the mouth. Like, all the magics of these characters is pretty useless, or at least not. I mean, useless is a harsh word. There are definitely use cases. I can definitely see, if I had the artistic ability and the writing capability, 2 things I do not have, I would be able to try and use these characters in very interesting ways, having interesting combos with them, heck, hypothetically having them grow and evolve and hypothetically awaken new levels of magic or reform their conception of their current magic, all that good stuff. I could definitely see it. But like, even from a logistics front, if I'm Nakaba and I'm looking at the cast I made, I don't want to write 11 characters. I just don't. Like, because you already have a whole, like, section. You have multiple sections, at least in my mind. Like, when I script out my own stories, I'm thinking, like, okay, we're going to have this level of character, they're going to be main characters. This level of character, they're going to be side characters. And this level of characters, we're going to call character development or fodder. It is very difficult to write 2 main characters. Not to talk of 4, which is what Nakaba's already going to have to be writing, because they're the 4 titular characters. Then he's going to have to write the 2 love interests, which are pretty much like package deals. Like, you can't necessarily remove them. Then you're going to have to write the funny animal sidekick. Then you're going to have to write the other 4. Like, that's a lot of writing, dog. And again, Nakaba has made a cast of characters that is massive, diverse, amazing, interesting, in all their own different means. I love a ton of Nakaba's characters. But I don't know. I'm just looking at it. I'm looking at it logistically. From, like, putting on my own writer's spectacles, my writer's glasses, I just don't see Nakaba using them for anything but character development. Especially with a cast that is so focused around hypothetical character development. Once again, all of our 4 knights are 16. Of course they're going to go through an angst arc. It's just natural. The 3,000-year-old plus man Meliodas went through an angst arc. Bon went through an angst arc. Everyone goes through an angst arc. And admittedly, Percy's in the middle of one right now, He's still looking up at the sky, wondering where his grandfather is. And I can tell you, he's probably not there. But with that being the case, even in that scenario, some more recent characters getting put in a pack would definitely help with that angst arc that's going to definitely happen. We've been theorizing for a while now that we're probably going to get a whole arc centered around Despair Percy. Something's going to happen to one of his friends, and bada bing, bada boom, he's going to only have Despair magic in the room. Uh-oh. I wonder what could trigger Percy to go crazy enough that he locks away his hope magic and activates permanent despair magic for a while. Oh yeah, the death of one of his friends. And would you look at the time, now that we have all 4 knights gathered, the rest of this main cast seems pretty darn expendable. I just don't know. Seems entirely likely. Oh, Tristan, you're a cool kid, right? Yeah, you're pretty darn neat, if I do say so myself. Oh, what's that? You haven't mastered the demon side of your magic? Oh, and you're telling me that side of your magic is primarily controlled by your emotional state? So hypothetically, if anyone close to you or anyone you deeply trusted were to perish, you would go into an immediate state of extreme rage and darkness, hypothetically doing extreme damage and wiping out thousands? I wonder, with these 2 perfectly expendable side characters, what is going to happen? What are we going to do here? Lancelot and Gawain are, like, weirdly nebulous, though. Like, I guess Lancelot has a connection to the Percy platoon, but I feel like he doesn't have the same connection as Percy. He very much seems like a mentor relationship to them, much less a actual close friend. He wants to be friends, obviously. You can tell by how he pulled up that late night. It was like, hey, let's go eat. But in reality, I feel like he's separate, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally from that group. So I don't think he'll get any development from them. He's probably going to have something to do with Gwen or something like that. Or Jericho, like I said. He has separate. Same thing with Gawain. Like, literally only tie is really to Tristan because, Tristan is the one that got her. She may develop a bond, and we may spend some time developing a bond with her and the rest of the group. Like, we've already started to see seeds of that with Donnie taking care of her after she passed out, them working together, all that good stuff. Like, you definitely have it there. But being realistic, Lance and Gawain are kind of off the table in terms of getting character development from these external characters' deaths, at least for a while. The main 2 benefactors of side character death, SDC, no, SCD. the main contributors and the main people who receive a whole lot from it are Tristan and Percy. And I think we're going to see that simply because it kind of is a necessity. True, we are nowhere near around the middle of the narrative. Like, we still are about 50 chapters, or really like 70, actually like 80, because we're only on chapter like 91 right now. So we are definitely a fat chunk away from the middle of the narrative. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying these characters have to perish, get removed, get executed like now. Heck, maybe not even 30 chapters from now. Heck, maybe not even 50 chapters from now. Heck, maybe not even 40 chapters from now. But to say the very least, I don't see all these characters making it to the end of the narrative. Like, I just don't see it. I don't see it. In order of, like, probability, who I think is going to, like, go first, it has to be Jade. Like no offense, until Jade gets some sort of contribution or explanation of why he's important, he has, like, the least rep in order for staying around. And, like, this is not just coming from the fact that I'm a Jade hater, a Jader, if you will. Like, I do that mostly as a joke, and because I don't care. But in reality, he just has nothing. Like, we have no idea of who his lineage is, where he comes from, his design's ugly. No, I'm kidding. He has literally my favorite design out of the redesigns. So obviously he definitely can stick around, but like he doesn't have any ties to the previous series like Kion and Donnie do. He doesn't have any actual like direct narrative involvement. He's not even a Tristan meat writer like that. He's really just a friend who is a holy knight. So that's up in the air. He's not a love interest, at least as far as I can tell to anybody. And his power is literally like the most useless. Like out of everyone we've seen so far, he is the most useless and the most basic magical power. Notably, we have not seen more of it. Maybe it's more complicated and useful than I think it is. But at least right now, if all he can do is put a dark ball over somebody's head in a verse full of people who can sense magic, that's it. Like I have nothing. I have nothing for him. That's it. He's kind of worthless. I can see him going first. Next up on the docket, this is a 50-50. I'll tell you where else he could place if I'm being generous. And I hate that I have to be generous to this character. But Nasians is up next. Once again, the only reason I have him above Jade is because, one, his magic is much more useful. It's much harder to replicate. The general immediate buffs with stuff like Ceranos Horn, Wither, all the different mystery behind him. He has a whole bunch of stuff that could make him really, really useful, but at the same time, he could be too useful. And when characters are too useful, they don't get to stick around that often, or be that powerful, or anything like that. Look at Gother. Gother is snapped. He never was allowed to be properly strong, because if he was properly strong, he'd break the darn narrative. So I can definitely see Nasians, as much as I love him, get him booted out of the narrative, because once again, he has no connections to the previous series. He's all mystery, and while all mystery can be a good thing, it can lead to mystery and development, we got 4 other characters that we have to develop, alongside 2 love interests, alongside the horse. Like, if I'm looking at the pecking order here, Nasians is kind of chipping at the bottom of the list, so I think he's going to have to go next in terms of like who I think is likely to, especially since he has a whole unrequited, whatever you say, love plot with Percy going on right now. I could definitely see him literally getting like speared and then saying, Percy, I always loved you, and then popping down, gone, just like that. Then next up, I'm going to have to say Kion. See, the thing is though, I hate to do this, but I'm actually going to say Donnie. I think Donnie's third most likely. Mainly because, like, Gilthunder is pretty much inarguably a more important character to the original series than Hauser is. And he's also Margaret's kid. Meanwhile, we never met Donnie's mom. We never met Donnie's dad. I highly doubt Nakaba's going to actually go out of his way to show us them or give us any real flashbacks on them. Meanwhile, we got the whole Margaret Gilthunder love story. Those 2 characters had a whole ton of prominence in the original series. So I think in reality, I'm going to have to give Kion number 1, least likely to go, or at least last to go. He is the Tristan meat muncher, obviously. We're definitely going to have him spitting some top tier haterade moments in a while. Like, I don't think we're gonna see their journey first, but still, with that being the case, I see him lasting the longest. Most of the ties to the original series has a similar buffing and debuffing mechanic as Nasians does. Sure, it's a lot more specific. He can't do it on command and stuff like that, but it's still gonna end up being just as useful. It's one of the hardest things to replicate if you're the rest of the 4 knights. So I could definitely see Kion sticking around the longest due to his history and just general longevity through his magic. And then, like I said, the rest of the cast seems pretty much untouchable. 4 knights ain't going nowhere, love interest ain't going nowhere, and Sylvain ain't going nowhere. But if you really want one more person to make it a true top 5, it's going to be Sylvain. Sylvain's the least likely to go. Because he's the chunky, funny horse. And I highly doubt Nakaba, unless Nakaba really plans to make the series dark, I highly doubt he's actually going to, like, Sylvain of all characters. However, that's what I think. I think Nagaba stuffed a couple too many characters in the series for character development purposes, but what do you guys think? Please tell me in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do a Patreon down below and support for as low as $1 a month. Get exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.